Hi, Rebecca. I'm so happy that you joined this interview with me tonight. And I'm really excited to have a conversation about your experience, our work together.
Yes, thank you. It's going to be really nice to like kind of have a debrief and, just talk again about everything I've experienced. It's been quite a while. So I've been kind of working with you since March or before then. So
Mhm.
yeah, kind of an elongated experience it's been. Thank
Yeah,
you for having me.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rebecca travels a lot. She is a very creative entrepreneur, has lots of projects. So yeah, she's been traveling, but we managed to find time for these deep practices and tantric exploration and learning more about the intimacy together. So it was a journey. Yeah, maybe you can share with us where were you at when we met and why you decided to work with me? What was interesting for you in this area? What did you want to learn?
Yeah. Well, I'm a learner of all things and I will always continue to grow. So naturally, I think that this is a part of our lives that we don't pay enough attention to. So I've always been kind of fascinated and interested in the body and the mind and neuroscience. And I'm a musician and going a little bit deeper into intimacy and pleasure and sensuality and all of those things has always been fascinating to me because I think in my journey as a child growing up, I had trauma there. I was raised in a Christian home and I, believed that sex before marriage was bad and, had carried a lot of guilt and shame around that. I had a whole journey around like, orgasming that I was wondering, am I normal? Is this right? Like, what am I doing? And then, I had several relationships, throughout the years that caused a number of other questions, men giving me feedback on, oh, like, maybe you don't come so easy, or just comments, that were
Mhm.
made that you internalize, and then you have questions about yourself and how your body functions. And of course, um, you know, I wanted to grow in that area.
Mhm.
So I reached out to Lana because I wanted to discover more about my power within. And I believe that the feminine power is very, very strong, and that the root, what's the chakra, Lana? Help me. Like
You
what is that?
you just interrupted. Say it again.
Which like chakra, like your pelvic area.
Sacral, sacral.
Yeah, the
The
sacral.
chakra
So
represents our sexuality. Yes. Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
so I wanted to learn more about the sacral chakra, and we did some work on heart chakra and everything, and just how the mind, body, and spirit are connected. I am a very connected individual. I'd like to think I'm spiritual. I but I wanted to go to the next level. I wanted to see what I was capable of with a coach, with somebody who could help me in this particular area. Lana and I spoke kind of early on and did another type of interview, and I felt very comfortable sharing in the space with Lana, and she provides this like beautiful container for anything to happen. And so yeah, that was really why I decided to say yes, like this is worth the investment, this is worth the time and the energy for me. I probably had my little like bumps along the way as I was traveling, and it was difficult to find like, a quiet space sometimes, but Lana was so patient and understanding and worked with me through that, through medical things, through whatever I needed to talk about that day, and then put it into our practice for that particular session. So yeah, overall it was because I wanted to grow. That's what I would say. I wanted to grow. And I believe that my power as a female entrepreneur in the world and my desire to help others and be of impact has a lot to do with how comfortable I am with myself, my self-esteem. All of those things play into how you present in the world. And so this was very important for me to discover about me and what I could do. And that's really what's happened in the last year. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. This energy is also the center of creativity, right? And it's directly connected to our throat chakra, which is also creative center. They say, like when you look at the map of how anatomy works, our yoni, right? Female sexual organs are really similar to how our throat anatomy is built. So that tells us a lot. And, in looking at our energetic channel, these two chakras are directly connected because they are responsible for creativity and self-expression. So I'm glad you brought it up because yes, this energy also affects our creativity and our entrepreneurship, our self-expression, our confidence, as as women, as the feminine, like this women who create from the place of feminine, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you a little bit more questions about the journey itself. What was the most insightful like discovery for you? Something that you didn't know before about intimacy, about the dynamics between feminine and masculine, this dance, the relationship, and how it plays out in our intimate relationship and in that space, right? In that sacred space with a man, with our masculine partner.
hmm Um, yeah, I'm currently in a monogamous straight relationship. So I wanted that to obviously like get better and me be able to explore within that relationship, but also be really true to myself was and still is very important. And I think that sometimes we women, we get um caught up in what we're supposed to do and what we should do and what we should feel and be like in our relationships. And to go a little bit deeper with Lana on those kind of things was also important to me. And so I think that some of the discoveries for me, like the standout things were, I remember you saying once, just allow. And
Mhm,
that word allow, like
mhm,
5 letters,
mhm,
it really freed me because I think that there were some days that I would just not want to see him because I didn't want to have sex. And I know he'd want to have sex. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm busy. I just didn't want to. And I couldn't even identify why I didn't want to. And
mhm,
so a lot of our conversations really caused me to keep thinking. And I still think about these things like in the moment. I'm like, why am I feeling like anxious? Why do I feel like about, because this is a man I deeply love and I
mhm,
actually, he's so attractive and like everything's good. So why do I feel today that I don't want to be intimate or I don't, want to have intercourse? You also opened this like, you know, other door where intimacy before intercourse, and I could express to him like what I wanted and how I wanted, and we could play and he could play. It gave him a voice. Um, it also just gave him a voice knowing that I was doing this. And so for him, it was really like kind of an enlightening experience to have a woman who cared enough about her body and her yoni and all of the things that I think he was able to talk to me more freely than he had any previous in any previous relationship. So those are some things I've learned. I learned that I knew it before, but to actually practice it, I think that's true. A lot of women, we know these things, but to put it to practice and to give it the time and energy
mhm,
is another thing. So I knew that I could create my own pleasure, but actually practicing it in a safe place was the key. And it's something I still need to put more time and effort into. But there were a few sessions where, yeah, I was visualizing, like, I think Lana will probably remember, like I do visualize a lot. And I get downloads in picture format, like almost like a music video. And I was seeing things, that were representative of me. So like the cheetah, I remember from the very first session that we had together, this like female cheetah coming out. There were other sessions where like former partners popped in, and I was like, what the hell? You know, like, why am I thinking about that? But maybe there's something there. So it just really, I think in some sessions brought me to another level of my consciousness, which I love to tap into that. Almost like a hypnosis, where you're able to completely relax, you're safe, and then allow the mind, body, spirit to connect through the yoni, the throat, the heart, through our breath work that we did. And then to allow yourself pleasure, and that it's okay to go there. I do remember the one session we did where I think I was off camera or you were off camera. You couldn't see me, and I had the headset on and my mask. And that was really powerful for me. I actually felt even freer in that moment to have the guidedness through my ears, but not like eyes on me. So that was really kind of a neat experience for me as well. And I remember another session we did like the dance, which totally, I love to dance, but I had to fight that one. I was like, what is happening in my ears right now? And this music, and and that is just a practice of not allowing the outside circumstances. We talk about this in yoga all the time, right? Not allowing an outside circumstance to affect what you can create internally, and just allowing, again, this allowingness of whatever is meant to be will be, and allowing yourself also like the freedom to move and make noise with your voice. Like, I think Lana would maybe say the vocalizations came fairly easy to me because I am a vocalist. So I'm used to making very strange and weird and wonderful sounds with my voice, and I have no problems with my voice. But for somebody who does, like, that would be next level for them to not only engage in creating their own pleasure, but to engage in allowing the voice to be free, to do whatever it wants to do. So I think that's a like really powerful element of the work that you do.
Wonderful. So many details and so many like journeys pulling together. Yeah, like, yeah, I remember this one, and remember the cheetah thing. So this is how we have this kind of playful practice, finding our wild animal, because sexuality actually presents like wild side of us, right? This is the wild energy. This is like a wild animal within us, and we can't tame it, because this is when the sexual energies, starts to fade away, right? So we want to feed that wild animal. We want to invite her. We want to recognize her and see her and allow her to play, right? Not to. That's why the expectations, when we're just like, when we're on this journey in the relationship with the man for a while, it kind of becomes more, like a routine, and the partners start to feel like, oh, we should do these things, we should have sex, and that is kind of like the thing that can really make our sexual energy to fade away and create that disconnect, right? Because the wild animal doesn't want to be tamed.
Yeah.
She wants to stay wild, and she wants to choose when she engages. This is the piece about allowing her, right, to come to, rather than having that expectations like many times people do. So yeah, this is such an important piece that most people forget, and they don't know how to create the right conditions for that, right? People talk unconditional love and all this, but sexuality, our wild animal needs certain conditions to be created so we can feed and nurture and allow her to show up more and grow and expand and express, right? Get to know each other and get to know his wild animal and invite him. So basically the feminine is in the position of leadership here, because this is part of our feminine power, right? To lead in this area, intimacy, emotions, energy. We are more sensitive. Our body is very sensitive because we give life, right? This is how we design. So puts us in that position. But at the end, nobody was teaching us these things. And this is something that we can consciously decide to learn and explore, right? In the safe container. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's also like, I mean, it's made us both aware as a couple because I'm open about it. It wasn't a secret that I was doing this, which I think is really important for anyone with a partner. Because when I was vulnerable with him and I told him, what was going on in the sessions and what I had learned, it started a conversation. And so when we could converse about it, it actually opened up the door for him to become more aware of his own sex and the way he was thinking about sex and the difference between making love and fucking. And, interestingly, he has since said to me, after we've had sex, we've been together, he actually said, it's so interesting that I actually could tell when I flipped into like a fucking mode, which is kind of like the old thinking and ownership of a female and the body, and maybe like generational or like very historical, are kind of like archaic ways of being. And then he was able to say, but I could switch it back to being aware of you and what you needed in that moment and being sensitive. And I was like, wow, that was really interesting for me, because I also had felt the same thing during that time together. And I was able to say, whoa, that's crazy. I said, I felt that too. And when I felt it in that particular instance, it wasn't nice. Like, it wasn't what I lost, connection with him for that moment. Right. And I was like, oh, well, that's what happened when we lost connection. It was when your mind switched into that. And then I felt maybe unsafe for a minute, or just disconnected. Like, I feel always safe with my partner, but you have these things that go through your head, like, I kind of want this to stop, or let's finish. Can I get him to finish? This can be over.
Done with it.
Yeah. So I know that some people have a really hard time talking about these things, but for me, it's such a natural thing. Like, we all have sex. We all, it's like we go to the bathroom, you have sex, like it's the same thing. So I just wish more people would start talking about it and what happens in, behind closed doors or wherever it happens for you, but openly, because I don't think the experience is all that different for people. It's just that we've been trained to be in shame about it, but really, I think we're not all that different. So anyways, that's another thing that's really opened up our world. Now, there's still, I feel, tons of work to do. Like, this was just the start of a journey for us, but it has, like, biggest lesson, it has created an idea of where we want to go. That's what it's done. It's gone, like, we had a conversation about this not very long ago, Lana, about, what do we want in our relationship? And I think the very societal way to go, or like the tempting way to go, years down the road or whenever you want some spice in your life, is to go, oh, well, maybe we'll have a threesome, or maybe we'll do swingers, or maybe we'll go to a sex club, or maybe we'll do this or this or this, or all of the very like typical things. It's really just created another option. And the other option is to go super deep and get super vulnerable, no pun intended, get very intimate with one another, and kind of go next level with our intimacy, and how can we connect on a deeper level, emotionally, spiritually. Can we make sex a spiritual, well, it already is a spiritual experience, so can we connect with that even more? So I think that's really important for this whole thing, my whole experience with you. It's just like, oh, there was this, and now, because I did all this practice and was talking to my partner through it, now there's like, oh, here's the other option, which is where I desire to go, and I believe he would like to as well. I just didn't know it existed, or like, how is that going to be on the table for us? But now it is.
Wow.
So that's, yeah, been really, really good for like future endeavors too, you know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, you're such a good storyteller, and you're such a good person who can bring all these elements together and show this how it works, like a network, right? By the way, the female sexuality is a network. So we are good with exploring and connecting the dots and like seeing the whole picture and seeing perspective, which is the masculine is more like laser focused, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Super,
Logic, reason.
yeah. So this is like something so important when you mentioned when you felt that moment when he disconnected from his heart. This is what makes our sexual experience actually love making. This is when we feel, oh, this man is making love with me, right?
Mhm.
Rather than like, oh, he's just fucking, like, and
Yeah, using the body.
Mhm. And you
Mhm.
both felt that moment when it happened, and you were vulnerable enough and you were equipped enough to bring it up and have a conversation about that. And
Mhm.
that is very beautiful because most couples like never even get there, and they don't even
Yeah,
know how to bring it up or how to like even for a man it's really hard to know that moment if he didn't do his own work and he hasn't learned about how female sexuality is different and how we wire different, and also disconnect from that porn culture that most men, unfortunately most men learn about sex by
yeah,
watching porn, right, from
yeah.
a very
And
young,
women.
yeah, and women.
I'm just
So,
as guilty, you know. I had that porn culture and still it tempts me to come back, you know, the porn culture and what do I really want? You know, do I want that or do I really want this other option? And so that's where it becomes a conscious choice. And it is more on a conscious level rather than subconsciously, oh, I'm just going to watch some porn, you
yeah.
know? So it is a choice still because there's always going to be the two options, right? We have to
Yeah.
decide what we want in our life.
Yeah, exactly. And it does take more efforts to rewire your brain because if we are wired this way and it's easier, and it's like something that the pathway that we've been using for so long. So it takes an effort to rewire through these practices, right? That open
Yeah.
our heart and open our other energetic centers, and understanding that sexuality is not just like physical stimulation or like just like this, you know, erotic conversations. It's also about emotional intimacy. It's also about activation on at all levels, right? It's also
Yeah.
spiritual experience, and it's also something that we can experience like expanded states of consciousness because our brain actually produces DMT when we are highly aroused and when we're connected, right? So it's like spiritual experiences like Alice in Wonderland. When we go deep, it expands and it's like new
Yeah.
world opens up. And that is the second option for those ones who want to explore Tantra and who
I
want.
like that. I like that analogy, like Alice in Wonderland, when you go like deeper into the ground, the
Mhm.
world expands, and all of a sudden there's this like magical place that you're like, what?
Yeah, that you didn't even know it was there, right?
Yeah,
Before.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Mhm.
that was amazing conversation. What would you recommend women who are like super busy and they have busy schedules, entrepreneurs, and they feel like, yeah, I want to learn, but I don't have time, or my partner is also busy. What would you suggest for them? Like, how can they still integrate this part of their life and like give themselves this gift of exploration and discovery and deep connection and love making?
Yeah, you know what? I used to be one of those entrepreneurs that was like, I'm so busy. And I would just say to any entrepreneurs out there, your busyness is your choice. You're deciding to be that busy and you're deciding to not prioritize other things in your life. And there's a reason for that. So anybody contemplating it and thinking, oh, I need that, but I don't have time, I would honestly ask them the hard question. Why don't you create time? Why have you never created time for this? What is that saying about where you're at and what you're really committed to? Because I think that when we are busy, like our actions show what we are committed to. Are you committed to being busy? Because then you're going to be busy forever and ever and ever. Because that's what you want in your life. For some reason, you don't want the time to spend doing something like this? And you have to ask yourself that question. So I would say make a choice and then follow through on it. It's very simple. I
Mhm.
think I think it's us and our brains that overcomplicate it, just like we overcomplicate lovemaking sometimes by thinking all these things and letting our brains run the show. Just make a decision and follow through. And honestly, I think knowing that, for me, knowing like with Lana, that she's so flexible, and that if I couldn't even mentally do it that day, she was so like understanding of all those things, so that really would help. And I hope that would help other people, knowing that if you make a commitment and then you're like, you get cold feet, or like you don't know if you can do it, Lana's there to walk you through that. And I think that's where the support in your program and what you do is one thing, but you as a person bring more to the table than that too. It's I think that when you want to learn and grow and you've really decided you're going to, nothing can stop you. Even if it's music you can't relate to,
Mhm.
nothing can stop you from the growth that you are actually looking for, that you want.
Mhm.
So I just say go get it, do it.
Mhm.
If it's calling you, just make a decision and like pay and start doing it. And stop making it a bigger deal than that, because the growth that you're going to have in this part of your life, again, does transfer into the freedom you feel within your business, the freedom you
Mhm.
feel within your relationships, both, like not just your intimate relationship, but with like all relationships. It's going to, any type of growth that happens within us is valuable in far more ways than we can even conceive, especially at the time, like at just the start. So by the end, you're like, holy smokes, I had no idea, what I was capable of. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Beautiful. Wow. I love every word you shared, and the passion, the energy. You can see how Rebecca embodies this woman that she wanted to be, and she wants to be, and she is here, right? And I love this piece about the business. The business can only benefit from this work. And this is what I also learned about my journey. It's actually my business benefits from this deep work with sexual feminine energy, and it actually creates more spaciousness. Like I feel more spacious, and
Mhm.
things happen much faster when I allow them to happen,
Yeah.
even in the business, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate you showing up today and having this conversation. I wish you, all the best with your business, with your creativity, with your beautiful project, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much. And I wish all of the best for anyone watching this. And yeah, just lots of all the good energy on your journey as you continue to step forward into your own power.